tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hail, fellow travelers. Tim from Secret Fire Books here with another Random Book Wednesday, the show where I get to break all of the totally non-existent rules that I set for myself here on this channel and just talk about whatever the heck I want. And so in the tradition of talking about whatever the heck I want, I'm going to do one more Sumerian September video. That's right. I know it's the beginning of October. I know I said in my last video it was going to be my final Sumerian September video of the year, but I just don't want it to end. Sumerian September lives on. It lives on in my heart. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a flip through of a Conan the Barbarian comic book. This is the Marvel Comics adaptation of a classic Robert E. Howard story, The Tower of the Elephant. Now, this was adapted in 1971 for the 4th issue of their Conan the Barbarian comic book. I don't have the original issue here, obviously, but I do have it collected in this omnibus. This is the first Conan Epic Collection by Marvel Comics, The Coming of Conan. It contains the first 13 or 14 issues of their Conan comic book, I believe. And so, like I said, this was put out originally in 1971. It was the 4th issue of the Conan comic. It had scripts by Roy Thomas with art by Barry Windsor Smith and Sal Buscema. There are a few different comic book adaptations of The Tower of the Elephant. There's this one. There was another one that Marvel used for their Savage Sword of Conan magazine, and that had art by John Buscema and Alfredo Alcala, I believe. And then in the mid-2000s, Dark Horse did a version of The Tower of the Elephant for their Conan comic book series. I haven't read that one in a while. Maybe I'll talk about that one in depth at some point. But so far, this is my favorite comic book adaptation of that classic Conan story. And it's, in my opinion, that this is the issue of Conan where artist Barry Windsor Smith really started to hit his stride. His art was still a little bit rough at this early part of his career in the early 70s, but there are panels in this specific issue that are just mesmerizingly beautiful. And it starts off really well with the front cover here, which is just an awesome-looking comic book cover by Barry Windsor Smith, with Conan fighting this giant spider with a broken sword. We have an inexplicable damsel in distress screaming in terror at this giant spider. There is no woman in the scene in question in the original story. I guess they just had to throw in a screaming female character on this issue to give the comic book a sense of urgency. But in any case, our first real taste of the comic comes with this first splash page where we're given an introduction to the city of Aranjun, the city of thieves in the land of Zamora. Kind of the capital of roguish misadventures in the world of the Hyborian Age. And we see this seedy-looking tavern where we have this Kothian slave catcher bragging about all of his adventures, sloshing wine all over the place, and he's telling a story about the Tower of the Elephant, a tower in Aranjun where the dark wizard Yara lives, and he keeps a jewel known as the Heart of the Elephant that no man has ever seen or stolen because it's impossible to get into that tower and get past the wizard's defenses and steal it. And at this point, we see a hand on the Kothian's shoulder, and of course it's Conan. And he says, "You spoke of the Elephant Tower. I've heard much of it since I came to Aranjun. What is its secret, man of Koth?" And the Kothian just laughs at him and says, "What are you talking about, kid? Everyone knows about the Tower of the Elephant. Everyone knows about that jewel. It's impossible to steal it." And so Conan counters that with, "There is always a way, if the desire be coupled with courage." And that ticks off the Kothian. He gives Conan a slap. Conan slaps him right back. "Yeah, get out of my face." And they start a big brawl in this tavern. And during their brawl, the single candle that was lighting that dark tavern gets snuffed out. And when someone finally relights it, Conan is gone, but the Kothian is dead. It's such a great way to end that scene. Such a great opening to this awesome story. So after that, Conan leaves the tavern in search of the Elephant's Tower. It's this big, shining, jewel-bedecked tower in the middle of the city. And so he hides in the bushes as the master of the tower, Yara the wizard, comes back in through the gate. And as we can see, Yara is a very lazy old man because he doesn't even use his legs to walk. He just levitates off the ground like a weirdo. Walk like a normal person, you weirdo. But in any case, after he goes into the tower, Conan quickly and stealthily sneaks into the tower's garden. And he hears a muffled cry and whips around to counter whatever's coming at him. But it turns out there's nothing. And in fact, the guardsman that's watching the garden is dead. Dead inexplicably. And Conan wheels around again and he sees a figure approaching. And it is Taurus of Nemedia, the Prince of Thieves. And I just want to say that I love that in the world of the Hyborian Age, the Prince of Thieves, the ultimate rogue, is this fat, schlubby older dude with a beer belly and he just wears this girdle with a really small loincloth. I've always thought that was funny. He's described in kind of a comical way in the original story too, but yeah, he's a cool character, Taurus of Nemedia. And then we have this scene where he and Conan are discussing, what's going on in the garden and whether or not they're going to team up on this quest into the tower. And when I first read this comic, I had no idea what this was in this panel. But then I took a closer look and realized, oh wait, that's the hand of the dead guard lying in the grass. Look at all the unnecessary detail that Barry Windsor Smith puts into the gauntlet on that dead man's hand. This is how you know that he was really starting to hit his stride as an artist, when he puts in a lot of detail to just a little bit of foreground imagery like that. So Conan and Taurus decide to team up and infiltrate the elephant's tower together. But then they both wheel around and we see lions. There are lions guarding the garden as well. But they're no problem for Taurus of Nemedia. He just takes out a blowgun and sprays some Black Lotus powder at these lions and knocks them out instantly. And so they go on their way and start to climb the tower. And as we see here, the tower is just covered in jewels. And as Taurus gets his grappling hook up on the tower ledge, Conan turns around. There's one lion left coming at him. But of course, it's Conan. Conan, a mere lion is no match for Conan and his mighty thews. He slays the lion. And so he and Taurus get ready to climb up the tower. And as they're scaling the tower, Conan sees that, there's just so many gemstones encrusting this thing. He's like, there is a fabulous fortune here, Taurus. You don't need to get to the tower. There's a fortune in jewels here. But Taurus says, no. Wait till we get the jewel. Then it'll all be ours. And so he leaves Conan at the tower while he investigates inside. And Conan's like, I don't know about this. I don't know if I can trust this Taurus character, especially since the door slams shut behind Taurus. He's like, oh, great. This guy's plundering the treasure without me. But then the door opens again and Taurus stumbles out. And he's dead. He's dead with two perfectly round bites taken out of the center of his neck. What's that all about? So Conan walks into the open door into this fabulous treasure room, and he sees what we expected all along because we saw the front cover. It's a giant spider. Taurus was killed by a giant spider. What a way for the Prince of Thieves to go out. Killed by a giant spider. Poor Taurus. He deserves better. So now Conan must slay this giant spider, trying to tangle him up in its web. And his sword is no use. He loses his sword in the webbing. But he sees this big, heavy treasure chest. And so he picks it up and he smashes it against the spider and crushes it and kills it. And it scatters gemstones all over the place. And as we can see, Conan just kind of moves on from there. And it's at this point where I'm reminded of something that my friend and fellow fantasy writer Eric Wag has pointed out about the Conan stories. Conan is never necessarily interested in any kind of monetary or physical reward. Conan is in it for the adventure. The character's actions are constantly moving the plot along. He is Robert E. Howard wrote his stories as pure escapism. He was the king of the pulps. All of his stories were written to be escapes into these fabulous worlds. And he didn't want to bog down his stories with characters who were only in it for monetary gain or physical rewards. Conan is in it for the adventure, and so the character literally moves the story along by just being curious about what's beyond the next what's beyond the next door, what's around the next corner. And he sees what's around the next corner as he enters in the next room and sees this character. This is Yag-Kosha, one of the coolest characters that Robert E. Howard ever wrote. Conan takes it to be this statue of a man with an elephant's head, and at this point we get kind of an interesting shocked expression on Conan's face. Again, I think that there are some really great panels in this comic, but this is still Barry Windsor Smith when he's just starting to get a feel for his own artwork, and there are still times where he doesn't get faces quite right, in my opinion, and this is one of them. Oh my gosh, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the shocked Pikachu meme. That's the Conan version of the shocked Pikachu meme. I'm gonna take a picture of this and use this instead of the shocked Pikachu face from now on. That's perfect. But in any case, yes, he meets this strange creature, Yag-Kosha, who has been enslaved by Yara, the keeper of the tower. And he tells Conan all about his origin and his backstory. Yag-Kosha was once one of many such creatures who came to this planet from a faraway galaxy. He and his people, they watched mankind develop from its primitive origins and spread over the world and develop as as a race of people. And at that point, the Yag-Kosha's brethren just started dying off one by one until he was the only one left. And he continued to teach the humans of Earth about the ways of his people, to teach them the knowledge and the wisdom of the universe, and teach them magic. And he took on a pupil, the wizard Yara, who eventually turned against him and enslaved him to his own whims. Poor Yag-Kosha, bound in chains, a servant to the man who was once his pupil. It's a very tragic backstory for this character. And so he tells Conan, yes, the jewel of the elephant, or the heart of the elephant, it's right over there, this big shiny jewel. Take it and strike me down, put me out of my misery. Strike, O man, if you feel pity for Yag-Kosha. Strike! And so he advises Conan to strike him down and pour his blood over the jewel, so that in some way he may get his revenge on Yara the sorcerer. And so Conan thrusts his sword into Yag-Kosha's heart, killing him instantly. And in the original pulp story, I believe he actually cuts out Yag-Kosha's heart and pours his blood on the jewel. But this is a Marvel comic. They were still beholden to the Comics Code Authority, so they couldn't do anything that gory. So his blood just kind of floats out in a cloudy mist, or like a stream of mist, and gets absorbed by the heart of the elephant. And so Conan picks that up, and he takes it into the next room where he sees the wizard Yara relaxing in his study. Again, just a really lazy old wizard. He says, "Yara, waken! Dog, who are you? What do you here?" And so Conan does as Yag-Kosha instructed, and he places the jewel, the heart of the elephant, before Yara. Yara says, "No, it cannot be. He cannot escape me thus. I am his master, his master." But then, before Conan's eyes, oh, there we have yet again another doofy expression drawn by Mr. Barry Windsor Smith. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, because we see that he can draw very natural expressions. That's a good face in that panel, but don't know what that one is right there. But before Conan's eyes, the wizard Yara begins to shrink, and his body is drawn into the center of the gem, into the heart of the elephant. And Conan watches as the spirit of Yag-Kosha pursues Yara throughout the gem and gains his revenge, his long sought after revenge. And so now Conan, seeing all these horrible images, tries to escape the tower. And then we get this final page, and oh my goodness, this could very well be one of my favorite comic book pages of all time. Look at this. Yeah, Conan escapes the tower, and he looks back, and he watches as the Tower of the Elephant crashes into shining shards. Oh, it's gorgeous. Yeah, Barry Windsor Smith knocked this one out of the park. I could frame that and hang it on my wall. It's so gorgeous. Oh yeah, we're gonna end the video there. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. Thank you for watching me flip through my comic book. Let me know in the comments, have you ever read this comic? What's your favorite adaptation of the Tower of the Elephant? Let me know, and regardless, I hope you'll join me for the next random book review. Until then, as always, farewell and keep reading.